They thought it was just another abandoned junkyard. They thought that rusty old truck was nothing but scrap metal. But Thor the sharp-nosed K9 knew better. His barks echoed like a warning from the forgotten. And when officers finally forced open those locked doors, what they discovered inside was enough to freeze their blood. It was supposed to be routine. At 3:14 p.m., a call came in from a homeless man living under the Route 6 overpass. He swore he had heard the faint cries of children coming from Callahan's junkyard. Most people would have ignored it, chalked it up to wind, ghosts, or the lonely imagination of someone down on their luck. But Officer Rachel Quinn didn't ignore calls like that. And neither did Thor. The junkyard stretched across 20 acres of rusted cars and broken trucks, its fences wrapped tight in chain link, like a prison for forgotten machines. Weeds clawed through shattered windows, while silence hung over the graveyard of metal. The moment they stepped through the gate, Thor's body went stiff, his ears perked. Before Rachel could even unclip his harness, he bolted forward across the gravel, weaving through wreckage with laser-like focus. "Thor!" "Heel!" Rachel called, but deep down she knew this wasn't disobedience. He was telling her something. Thor skidded to a halt in front of a faded box truck, half hidden behind two piles of crushed cars. The paint was peeling, moss crawling up its wheels. Its back doors were chained and padlocked. Then Thor barked. Once, twice, again and again. Each sound sharper, louder, more desperate, until Rachel's gut twisted. This wasn't a call for attention. This was a cry for help. She edged closer, stepping over broken glass. Her hand hovered near her holster. "What is it, boy?" Thor pressed his nose against the seam of the doors, his body rigid with intensity. And that's when Rachel heard it, faint, hollow, like a scrape from inside. Her stomach dropped. Rachel grabbed her radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Quinn. I have a locked vehicle at Callahan's yard. Possible entrapment. Requesting backup immediately." Thor didn't move. He wouldn't leave that spot. His nose stayed against the steel, as if the world on the other side mattered more than anything else. Within minutes, the distant wail of sirens cut through the still air. Dust rose as patrol cars pulled into the yard, their red and blue lights flashing against rows of rusting metal. Officers poured out, but Thor never moved, his paws planted firmly at the back of that forgotten truck. Rachel nodded toward the lock. "We need this open, now." Two officers rushed forward with bolt cutters. The heavy chain groaned as steel met steel. The lock snapped and clattered onto the gravel. Every sound seemed louder than it should have been, like the whole world was holding its breath. "Step back," one officer ordered. They gripped the handles. With a metallic scream, the doors creaked open. At first, it was only darkness. A suffocating, stale stench rolled out, so thick it made officers cover their mouths. Then movement. A shadow shifted inside. Flashlights. Rachel barked. Beams of light pierced the gloom. What they revealed made stomachs turn. Two children sat huddled against the far wall, faces pale, eyes wide and glazed. A boy no older than 8, a girl maybe 6. Their small bodies trembled violently, shivering in oversized shirts smeared with dirt. Tears streaked down their cheeks, but no sound came out. Thor whimpered low, as if he understood their pain. He pushed his nose forward, but Rachel held him back gently. Her own heart pounded so hard it hurt. The kids' eyes locked onto the light blinking, unsure if what they saw was real or just another trick of the dark. Rachel stepped inside slowly, lowering her voice as soft as she could. "It's okay. You're safe now. We're here." The boy flinched, pressing an arm protectively around his sister. His lips moved, but the words were broken whispers. "Please, don't take us back." Rachel froze. The weight of those words settled heavier than the air in that truck. This wasn't just abandonment. This was something far worse. Behind her, another officer muttered under his breath, "Dear God." Rachel pulled off her jacket and draped it gently around the girl, who sank into its warmth like she hadn't felt comfort in weeks. The boy's eyes darted, scanning every face in the doorway with suspicion. Fear etched deep in his bones. Rachel knelt, her hand resting carefully on the floor between them, not touching but close enough to offer trust. "No one is taking you back, not ever. You're safe now." But even as she spoke, her instincts screamed. Someone had locked these children here, someone who didn't want them found, and whoever it was could still be out there. Paramedics rushed into the junkyard. With blankets and stretchers, their radios crackling, their faces grim. The two children were carefully lifted from the back of the truck, their bodies frail and cold to the touch. The little girl whimpered softly, clinging to her brother's hand as if letting go meant vanishing forever. Thor stayed close, his head tilted, eyes never leaving them, whining as though urging everyone to hurry. Rachel walked alongside as they carried the kids out. "Keep them warm. Hydrate slowly," she ordered, her voice steady despite the storm churning in her chest. She had seen tragedy before, but nothing like this. Then came the moment no one expected. As medics wrapped them in foil blankets, the boy whispered, his voice raw. "He said he'd come back. He said if we screamed, no one would hear us." Rachel's blood ran cold. This wasn't a random case of children wandering. This was captivity. Deliberate. Planned. Detectives on scene began circling the yard, searching for signs of whoever had left them there. A half-burned cigarette lay near the truck's rear wheel. Fresh footprints trailed off through the gravel and weeds. Whoever had done this had been here recently. "Lock this place down," Rachel commanded. "Nobody in or out." For hours, the junkyard became a crime scene. Officers combed through wreckage, evidence bags filling with scraps of horror ropes, a stained blanket, a torn backpack. Every detail painted a picture of cruelty. The children hadn't just been abandoned, they had been prisoners. Meanwhile, at the ambulance, Thor pressed his nose gently against the girl's arm, earning the faintest smile through her tears. It was the first sign of light in an otherwise black day. The boy whispered something no louder than a breath. "Thank you, doggy." Rachel blinked back tears. "Nobody," she said softly, kneeling beside them. "Thank him. He's the reason we found you." Hours later, as the children were rushed to the hospital, Rachel stood by the old truck, its doors still hanging open, its darkness now just an empty shell. The air smelled of rust and dust, but underneath lingered something far worse, the stink of human cruelty. Thor sat at her side, head high, watching the flashing lights fade into the night. Rachel rested her hand on his back. "Good work, partner. You saved them." The truth of what had happened would take weeks to untangle police files, investigations, suspects. But one thing was certain: without Thor, those kids might never have been found. And as Rachel looked down at her canine partner, she realized the most chilling part. Someone had locked children in that truck and walked away, with every intention of returning. The case was just beginning.